Meanwhile, Russia's foreign minister has announced the Kremlin's aim to capture the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv in a Russian radio interview. Sergei Lavrov said that Kharkiv is key to Putin's idea of creating demilitarized zones in Ukraine, which would protect Russian border settlements from Ukrainian fire. Kharkiv is Ukraine's second largest city and has been under fierce bombardment for weeks, with key infrastructure being targeted. Let's bring in our Russian affairs analyst, Konstantin Egart. Greetings, Konstantin. Again, Sergei Lavrov stating Moscow's intent to launch an all-out takeover of Kharkiv. What do you know about the operation?
Well, of course, I don't know anything about it for obvious reasons. I don't work for the Russian General Staff, thank God. But you know, Michael, frankly, I think that this is part of this typical, very, very typical Putin PR. I told you so. I'm going to do this, and I told you so. So the fact that you're not prepared, that's not my problem. That is a very typical thing. One has to understand, Lavrov doesn't decide anything in Russia. He's not part of the decision-making machine. He's just voicing basically opinions that he's told to voice. Now, with regard to Kharkiv, it's I think clear that it is in the crosshairs of Russia because of the intensity of shelling, whether in the last few weeks at least, or probably a couple of months. But whether Putin will really launch this offensive is quite a question, especially now after the US aid package was basically close to approval. It will be quite risky. I actually think that it may be a way of telling, aid package or not, I'm not afraid. I'm going to do my own thing in Ukraine, and that's probably the best explanation.
Konstantin, from your vantage point and know-how, of course, how does the new $61 billion U.S. aid package to Ukraine likely impact Russia's planning in terms of scale or timing?
Look, it is an extremely unpleasant thing for Putin and for the Kremlin and for the Russian aggression, because, of course, it shows that in the end there is a bipartisan agreement regarding Ukraine, and also there is a U.S. voters agreement. Public opinion polls show it, that supporting Ukraine is in the U.S. interest. So I think to a large extent, this is probably the most unpleasant news for the Kremlin since at least autumn last year, since the not very successful Ukrainian counteroffensive.
I want to go back, Konstantin, if you will, to something you were saying earlier and just do a slightly deeper dive. What do you make of Lavrov's seemingly frank and direct rhetoric? Is there strategy behind what he's saying in this radio interview?
Well, if there is strategy, we have to ask Putin, not Lavrov. But I think it is a way of telling the international community that Russia is not going to relent. Essentially, this is the message. No matter what happens, we are not going to relent. This is very typical Putin messaging, because he's always that. And I think in this respect, it is also a way of trying to impact significant parts of public opinion in the run-up to the European Parliament elections and in the US, because those who are against aiding Ukraine, those who are for, if you wish, some kind of deal with the Kremlin, they will say, well, see, no matter whether we give money or whether we withhold money, the Kremlin remains the same. So we have to talk to Putin. I think roughly that's probably the strategy, the political strategy at least.
Konstantin Egart, as always, many, many thanks.
Thank you.